Let's run a thought experiment. Imagine that starting tomorrow, every human being suddenly knew one thing with certainty: there is no God. What happens next? Does society instantly collapse? Do people being stealing and killing? Does morality disappears overnight? Or does something far stranger happen? Maybe we discovered that human being never truly needed God in the first place. At least not to live, love, cooperate, and build meaning. That idea makes many people uncomfortable because for centuries we've been told that God is the pillar holding human civilization together. Remove him and everything falls apart. But is that true? Or have we simply repeated it for so long that it feels true? Tonight, we are not here to mock belief. We are here to ask a dangerous question. Do we actually need God, or do we just think we do? Why people say they need God? If you ask most believers why they believe in God, the answer usually isn't a complex philosophical argument. It's often something simpler. They say, without God, life has no meaning. Without God, morality collapses. Without God, hope disappears. Without God, the world becomes terrifying. In other words, many people see God as a structural necessity, a support beam, something holding up the emotional and moral architecture of life. But we should slow down and ask an important question. Do we truly need God, or were we thought that we need God? Those are not the same thing. Many things feel essential only because culture trained us to see them that way. And believing God may be one of the largest examples of that phenomenon. Humans had social rules before organized religion. Let's begin somewhere simple. Human beings lived in groups long before organized religion existed in its modern form. They hunted, raised children, created tribes, punished theft, rewarded cooperation, developed norms. There were no formal scriptures, no elaborate theology, no modern religious institutions. And yet, society existed. Why? Because survival required it. If people stole constantly, trust collapsed. If people harmed each other freely, safety vanished. If no one cooperated, groups died. So humans learned shared rules were necessary, not because heaven commanded it, because life together required it. Basic morality did not descend from the sky, it emerged from living beside one another. Would people become monsters without God? One of the most common religious arguments sounds like this: if there is no God, what stops people from doing whatever they want? At first glance, that sounds serious. But hidden inside that question is a strange assumption that people are only good when they fear divine punishment. Think about that carefully. If someone behaves morally only because they fear hell, are they truly moral or simply frightened? Real morality is not born from terror. It grows from empathy, from understanding suffering, from recognizing that our action affects other conscious being, from knowing we share a world together. Fear can control behavior, but control is not the same as virtue. Modern societies already show the difference. Look at many modern countries today. Some of the least religious societies on earth often score highly in areas like safety, social trust, quality of life, education, public welfare. This does not prove religion is always harmful, but it does show something important. Human morality can function without God, and in many cases function very well. That should matter more than slogans. Maybe what people need is meaning, not God. For many people, the deeper issue is not morality, it is meaning. They think if God does not exist, then life becomes pointless. Because if no cosmic intelligence assigned purpose to the universe, what meaning could our life's possibility have? But maybe the flaw is in the question itself. Why assume meaning must come from outside life? Why assume meaning is only real if granted by a supernatural authority? Almost every meaningful experience human value is human made. Friendship, love, family, art, discovery, science, beauty, creation. These meanings were not handed down from the sky. They were built by conscious beings living together. And maybe that is what some people fear most. That meaning is not given, it must be created. That might be more liberating than frightening. If no divine blueprint exists for your life, something else follows. No pre written script exists either. You are not required to live according to the plan of an invisible authority. You can decide what matters. You can choose what kind of person to become. You can help shape what kind of world should exist. For some people, that sounds terrifying. For others, it sounds like freedom. People also want control in a chaotic world. This is another reason believing God feels necessary. The world is frightening. Earthquake, disease, death, random tragedy, unpredictable loss. Humans naturally want to believe that behind all of this chaos, something wise is in control. Someone steering events, someone balancing the scales, someone making sense of suffering. But the world often behaves differently. Nature is indifferent. Storms do not spare believers. Disease does not check ideology. Earthquakes do not honor fate. If reality were managed by an all-powerful and benevolent mind, many people would expect it to look very different. Why the God idea endures? So why has belief lasted so long? Because it offers something powerful, simple answer to enormous questions. Why does the universe exist? Why are we here? What happens after death? Why do bad things happen? God can function as one answer to all of them, a total framework, and final explanation are emotionally attractive. But simplicity is not proof. History is full of elegant answers that later turned out to be wrong. Not knowing is not a defect. Human beings have lived for thousands of years without knowing many ultimate answers. We still do not fully know how the universe began. We don't know whether we are alone in the cosmos. We do not fully understand consciousness. And yet, life continues. Ignorance of a question does not justify inventing a supernatural solution. Sometimes the most honest answer is we don't know yet. And that is okay. Civilizational maturity may mean tolerating uncertainty. One sign of intellectual maturity, whether in person or a civilization, is the ability to live with uncertainty without rushing to mythology, to leave some questions open, to tolerate ambiguity, to keep searching instead of grabbing the first comforting story available. That may be harder emotionally, but it is healthier intellectually. Can we be human without God? Many people throughout history have slowly realized that for morality, meaning, hope, and wonder, belief in God may not be required at all. We can think without God. We can love without God. We can cooperate without God. We can create beauty without God. We can seek justice without God. We can build a better future without God. And perhaps that is the real turning point. We may not need God in order to be fully human. The real question, maybe the most important question, was never whether God exists. Maybe it is, why do we assume we cannot function without Him? Why were generations told that without heavenly rewards, morality dies? Without divine punishment, chaos wins. Without cosmic purpose, life becomes empty. What if none of that is true? What if morality can survive without fear? What if meaning can exist without command? What if the world keeps turning without supervision? Then we face a much more serious reality. Responsibility shifts. No God is carrying the moral burden of the world. We are. We decide how just society becomes. We decide what meaning gets built here. And maybe maybe. That is exactly why this idea scares some people. Because a world without God may remove one comfort, but it gives us something else: full responsibility. Maybe the real issue is not belief itself. Maybe the issue begins when belief becomes dependency, when we assume goodness needs surveillance, meaning needs permission, hope needs mythology. Perhaps humanity is stronger than that. Perhaps we always were. If you made it this far, tell us what you think. Do human beings truly need God for morality and meaning? Or is it time to rethink one of the oldest assumptions ever thought? And if you're interested in conversation like this, stay with us, because in the next videos we are going after even bigger questions. Questions maybe people were told should never be asked. And never forget, nothing is more sacred than asking questions.